simple as that.
And I see what you're saying, especially as regards the generational shift, because increasingly, as you go each step down from Gen X, especially by the time you get to Gen Z and Gen Alpha that's coming up, you have less and less investment in the system. I mean, because more and more wealth has been held onto at the top of that generational scale. So they're not used to owning a house. They're not necessarily used to owning or having a car. And so in a way, they're already alienated from that system. They haven't been a part of it, so they have less investment in it and more reason to change the system as it exists. So I hope that you're correct. Let's talk briefly, if we could. It's a big subject. How much of this happens? I just don't think it can happen through industry changing itself. I think there needs to be pressure from activists, pressure from governments to regulate this in order to make it happen. How much do you think that is possible, and how do you envision that happening?
So you're right. Businesses are not going to vote to remove their market and their competitive edge. They will be nudged, encouraged, or forced to do so by a combination of the changing demands of the customer, the market, which is interesting. Business hates uncertainty, and we have never been in a more uncertain time. Legislation exists not to control things in a kind of Marxist way, but in order to protect and to protect resources that are vulnerable, and it hasn't done so. So we're going to see more legislation. Your system of legislation with state-based legislation and federal legislation, very, very different from the rest of the world. Not worse, not better, but it's going to have its.
I would argue that it's worse, but I appreciate your diplomacy there.
I have to be diplomatic. I love your country, but not everything. It's the worst and the best of the world in one place.
Here.
I think I see. And then, so we've got consumer demands, legislation, and then we've got opportunity. If we can see a changed business, and it won't work for everything, right? It just won't. I don't want to share my toothbrush with anybody. I actually struggle. I've got an electric toothbrush, which I've done the carbon calculations on. It probably just about works out the same as disposables. But I don't even want to share it with my wife, right? And I kiss my wife, let alone anybody else. So there's a limit. Would particularly want to share my clothing with anybody else. But what I don't mind is I don't mind this T-shirt at the end of its life being broken down, the polyester or the cotton being remanufactured into somebody else's jumper. And I don't mind buying a pair of trousers that have been manufactured using polyester or cotton from somebody else's T-shirt. So this sharing of ownership, it doesn't have to sit at the product level. It can sit at the polymer, the monomer, and the material level. Right. But it's got to work. It's got to work for the machine that is business, which is we need to make money out of it. Now, this is where it gets really exciting, Beowulf.
Okay.
Because this nudges into the degrowth argument, because we cannot have exponential growth, certainly in material use. We possibly can have steady growth in terms of profitability, but we're going to have to nudge towards more efficient use of resources and a market that is not expanding out of control. Right. That's not anything we're used to talking about.
Right.
And we've got to learn how to do that.
Well, I know there's going to be a lot of resistance to that, but given the choice between the plan that you lay out and that which Jeff Bezos and Elon Musk seem to be gravitating towards, which is go to the moon or go to Mars and see what we can cook up there, yours seems entirely more reasonable than what basically is not a plan. They just don't have an answer. They're just going to continue to do what they do in the short term, and maybe throw a couple of Hail Marys here and there. That's a recipe for disaster.
I agree, and I love this. I love this planet. I love the fact. I've not been to a country that I've not loved. I genuinely think the USA is utterly beautiful. But when we carry on industrial scale mining, forestry and agriculture, we do it so much harm. And the alternatives, you've probably seen Kiss the Ground, but moving to a model of regenerative agriculture, all the work that Finney and Makepeace is doing, this produces greater food quality, saves the soil, which can then do a job in terms of harvesting and solving carbon. And the stats that I've seen are it can increase profitability on a small scale. People that lose out, they're the really big chemical companies. They're the ones that are going to have to innovate into a good market faster than anybody else. And that, I think, is a beautiful challenge. Taking all of that knowledge and doing something constructive and positive. It's like for the marketing industry. If we can get the marketing industry to stop trying to sell us things we don't want, don't need, and the planet can't sustain, and start marketing things that are really genuinely positive in terms of social and environmental impact, and still keep money going and cycling in the USA, then we win.
Well, I like that plan, and I think it can work. And I am not so dedicated to the idea that all of the capitalism has to go. If it meets our basic needs, if it feeds, clothes, houses people, if it saves our planet and makes it a bearable place to live, I'm okay with whatever system will do that, as long as we can do that.
And one of the biggest failings we've had is one of imagination and creativity. And all creativity is, it's not people with kooky glasses and black sweaters. All creativity is imagining a world that hasn't arrived yet. And nobody would want to imagine a worse one. And if we could place all of our creative gumption, all of our creative energy into growing a world that was fairer, that used less resources, that produced food that was better for us and air that was clean to breathe, who would disagree with that? That's not anything that would run against anybody's principles. No one's going to put their hand up and vote for worse.
Well, there might be a few people, at least in the short run, who are used to particular, ideas and forms of media consumption and propagandas that might do that. But nevertheless, I am convinced that their minds can be changed, and that in order to secure their survival and to secure just a more pleasant, equitable life on this planet, that they can be convinced, and I'm convinced that this is something that we can do. So thank you for making this vision. Thank you, Mark Shayler. You can't make money from a dead planet. The sustainable method for driving profits. Where else can folks find you online?
So you can find me online at on Instagram. I'm at Mark Shayler, Shayler. On Twitter, I'm at Green Ape. Don't ask me why. I don't remember. I know it's utterly ridiculous. My business website is www.thisisape.co.uk, and you can also find me at my side project www.reasonstobecheerful.co.uk. Google me. I'm really easy to find.
Mark Shayler, you can't make money from a dead planet. Thank you so much for being with us today on Facepalm America.
Thank you, Beowulf.
Thank you for listening to Facepalm America. I think that may have been the very first guest, Mark Shayler, that was not actually a Facepalm American, strictly speaking, but we will make him an honorary Facepalm American. If you want to find out more information about the show, please go to facepalmamerica.com. Rate and review us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and any other platform you can do that on. And until next time, enjoy the day.